My style in diplomacy is my style as a human being. I'm very direct and very honest. Actually having blunt and informal discussions, I think, has allowed me to identify areas of commonality that might not otherwise have been visible, which is, I think, useful. We're the largest donor, we're the host country, we're the superpower. So people's ability to be dismissive or patronizing with me are limited. As the American ambassador to the United Nations, the salience of my Americanness is greater than the salience of my womanness. I was privileged to represent the United States on the Security Council when we had 6 women out of 15 total representatives on the council. Now I have the other experience, which is a more familiar experience, I'm sure, for women ambassadors to the UN, which is being the only woman of 15 ambassadors. I do think that when there were 6 women, what we could shape was a kind of culture, more interaction, more listening. Now I feel less of that. The fact that so many people comment and are embarrassed by this, including, in fairness, the men on the council, is a sign that things are changing and they're not changing nearly fast enough. While it's not ideal to always be one eye on the blackberry and 2 arms around my children, for the sake of those mothers out there who don't have the blackberry but do have the children and are hoping somebody will be raising their voice on their behalf, this is a great privilege. It's a 24/7 job. It's the privilege of a lifetime to get to try and help. A typical morning entails me, my son, who's 7, and my daughter, 4, fighting for who gets to sleep longest. We're all great sleepers, notwithstanding the events of the world. Usually I've been up a couple times in the night. You came into my room in the middle of the night and you lay next to my bed like a dog, but it was a boy instead with red hair. Morning time is sacred time and it's reliable time. The evenings, because a negotiation can run long, an emergency security council session can be called. Evenings are a lot less reliable, so we really try to savor the time we have in the morning. We use the drive time in the morning as the kind of religious period in which we do nothing initially but learn to read, and now he reads to me 4 pages of Harry Potter every day. This is a place in England.
Yorkshire.
Good. It's been 70 years without a woman Secretary General of the UN. I had one ambassador who was promoting a particular candidate for the Secretary Generalship, who was a male candidate, come to my office and he said, "We know that there's a preference for a woman, but Samantha, you're really going to have to decide, do you want a pretty face? Or do you want somebody who's actually going to be strong on gender issues?" And I said, "I didn't hear that. Please, can you just pretend that didn't happen, because I really like you." I think women should never lose the instinct to listen and to actually hear, but we need to become as unflappable as we can become, like more vectored. This happens to me a great deal, particularly with my Russian counterpart. We often end up in very live arguments, and he's a very skilled diplomat and very capable of just plowing ahead. One can lament it, one can have thought bubbles that are like, why is he doing this? But the main thing is to just stay focused on what you're trying to achieve and try to tune out the noise. Just stay on one's vector. The other aspect of my style is to bring in the stories of people who are affected by our decisions, actually physically into the Security Council when we were holding the first ever meeting in UN history on human trafficking, to bring in Nadia Murad, who herself had survived ISIL's sexual enslavement, and to require all the council members to actually listen to one survivor's story. I am humanizing what we are actually talking about when we try to promote human rights. Sometimes I feel as though people are saying, oh, it's sentimental, it's the emotion, of course, that's women. It's always the story or the child. I'm the only woman on the council, and I could just feel this kind of chilly silence. And again, that was a moment where I thought, do they actually think I'm standing up against sexual abuse because I'm a woman? I sure hope not. Whereas we should all be requiring ourselves to disaggregate the number of 65 million displaced and focus on individual stories. Think about every Ebola victim as an individual. I feel so lucky to have my family safe and secure. I'm acutely aware of how many people do not have that luxury, and so I often ask myself, if I were them, what would I want the person in my job to be doing? And so that's what motivates me.
Okay, am I gonna get my 5 kiss and hugs?
1, 2, 3, 4.
And what are my hugs? Can I have my hugs?